Hi, Frank Backer here, and welcome to the Daily Peacemaker. Um, I was talking to a friend the other day, and he said, Frank, why don't you, when you do these podcasts, why don't you give people a little background about yourself, your experiences and stuff like that? And I said, why do I need to do that? And he said something like, well, give them maybe like a little context to understand you and realize you've had some experience and you might even really know what you're talking about. And I said, yeah, but, what would I say? And he said, well, you could tell them that you are a level 3 certified nonviolence trainer. You could point out you have a master's degree in divinity, a master's degree in conscious evolution. And yeah, and what else? He said, well, what about your master's in social work? And then how you and your wife Karen had a psychotherapy practice that you did. And you could tell them about the different workshops and stuff. So I said to him, well, yeah, I said, let me think about it, So we'll see. Maybe I'll do that next time. Anyway, so putting that aside, I got to button my collar up here. I didn't get too spiffed up here for. All right, that's better. All right, so anyway, um, speaking about nonviolence, a while ago, maybe a couple of years ago, we did a number of podcasts on nonviolence and that type of nonviolence and theories about it and how to practice it. And I want to circle back to that. I'm finding I don't know, I need to talk about that again. So, one of the places we started was with, I don't know, trying to come up with a definition of what nonviolence is. So, let's start there again. And this is not super important, but it's probably good to know about. And that is that there are two ways of spelling nonviolence. One is just the whole the whole word nonviolence, and the other is what they call non-hyphenated violence. So, and then it's spelled with the hyphen. And there is a difference between those two in terms of how they're defined in many circles. And let me just read a quick definition. So the non-hyphenated violence means merely the absence of physical violence, and it's kind of passive. It's like, if you I'm not going to do anything violent, even if someone gets me angry or they attack me verbally. I'm going to refrain from violence. That's the non-hyphenated violence. The one word nonviolence signifies a more active principle, a more active way of life where you focus on love, justice, and resolving conflicts nonviolently, rejecting all forms of violence, even psychological. So those are the two words that you might run into, and it's not. I don't think it's super important that you know. Well, it's helpful to know the difference in case it comes up in conversation. So anyway, so back to what is nonviolence. So you ask different people, you get all kinds of responses. Oh, it's not hurting anybody. It's being kind. It means that you won't get people upset. It's very passive. Some people will say, I don't want to talk about nonviolence. It's useless. It doesn't work. All you do is get walked on. Other people will say, they'll even shift. Well, it's kind of, you know, being gentle and kind to people, those types of things. So, what we've come up with here at the Daily Peacemaker is um, I guess you'd call it definition. We would say nonviolence is a way of life in which the inherent worth and dignity of every living creature is honored and respected. Conflicts are resolved nonviolently, and we are working to create a world where there is safety and security for people, the ability to lead a pretty prosperous life, not just financially, but in many ways. So it's a way of life that when we talk about nonviolence here at the Daily Peacemaker, it's a way of life in which you probably the key thing is honor and respecting the inherent worth of every creature. Of course, when you talk about that, one of the issues, I guess, is that well, some I don't know, maybe many people don't believe that every living being, especially some humans, do not have an inherent worth and dignity. And you can see that the way, if you go listen to different arguments and they spin out to where um, one person is saying, "Oh, you're a worthless piece of crap," or you don't even shouldn't be allowed to exist here. The world would be a better place if you just left. So there's a um, I guess there are some people that just feel there are other people that do not have any worth and dignity. So if you don't buy into that every creature has an inherent worth and dignity that you've got to honor and respect, then how do you decide which people? Let's just stick with people. Which people are worthy of do have some dignity, inherent worth. So if you don't believe that everybody has that, even if it's hidden in the deepest corners of their heart, then it's going to be hard to enter into a daily living of nonviolence. So I would stick with that definition. It's a way of life in which we honor and respect the inherent worth of all living beings. Tough. It's a tough road. I'll give you that. And then moving forward, this nonviolence, the way I see it, the way we see it here, is it's a science. It is a skill, and it is an art. So, in the sense of it being a science, there's a lot of literature. There's a lot of studies going on. Actually, the actual word nonviolence has only been in the English language for maybe a little over 100 years. Yes, Gandhi and Sadhganda and that term has been around, or that philosophy, I guess, has been around for a while. But there's a lot of literature, a lot of studies that have gone on now with nonviolence, and when I say it's a way of life and it's a skill, it's like a practice in terms of trying to live. The whole philosophy is you're not going to wake up some morning and say, "Hey, I'm going to be nonviolent for the rest of my life." The idea is to be a little less violent today than you were yesterday. So I'm thinking maybe there's a lot to say about nonviolence as a way of life and it being a science, a skill, and an art. So let me stop here, because if I start going into that, I might end up rambling on for another 10 minutes. So let me end there, so to speak, and next time look at it, go more, take a deep dive, don't you love it, into it. Nonviolence as a science, a skill, and an art. So again, what we're doing, we're going back over nonviolence and beginning to look at it as a way of life, and then when we explore that little notion, no, it's not little, that notion around science and skill and art, and also another piece is the level, being able to recognize the levels of violence, how it escalates, and then we can move into the Kingian steps and principles. If you want to get a head start, I think, can't remember off the top of my head, it might have been back when um, there's a series of podcasts we did called The Beloved Community, which there were three of us talking about the steps and principles and how they apply in everyday life. They were a little bit long, but if you're listening to it, you don't have to listen to the whole thing at once, obviously. So you might want to, if you were so moved, check that out. And on the website, dailypeacemaker.com, if you go to the resource page, there's a lot of really good stuff there. So, all right, enough. Let me end there. And again, always good to be with you. And the one thing that we have control over is how violent or nonviolent we live our lives. And there's some good stuff there. And the power that you have just as an individual is pretty amazing. So keep that in mind. All right, I'm going to end. Always good to be with you. Any questions, comments, insights, always welcome. So let us walk in peace, and you all take care. Bye.